In 1869, two children are seen lugging a heavy wooden chest through the forest, looking terrified. As they dig a hole to bury it, one child falls in, and they hear strange jungle drum sounds from the crate. Despite their fear, they manage to bury it. Jump to 1969. A boy named Alan is running away from a group of 5 other kids. Outnumbered and desperate, he finds refuge in the Paris shoe factory, owned by his father. Inside, Carl, an enthusiastic employee, shows Alan a new shoe he's designed, confident it will impress Alan's father and be a hit. But Sam Parrish, Alan's father, walks in, reprimanding Alan for being in the factory and urging him to confront his fears, including his bullies. When Alan leaves, Carl's shoe design gets damaged. Alan, feeling guilty but scared, lets Carl take the blame. Outside, Alan faces his bullies, but loses the fight, and they take his bike as a trophy. Dejected, Alan hears strange jungle drums. The sound leads him to a construction site for a new shoe factory building, where he uncovers the buried chest from 1869. Inside, he finds a board game called Jumanji. He takes it home, and while examining it, he hears his mother calling and hurriedly hides the game, accidentally starting it. Later, Alan eats dinner alone as his parents attend a charity event. Sam, unaware of the earlier fight, apologizes for putting pressure on Alan and expresses pride in his bravery, suggesting he's ready to attend Cliffside School for boys. Alan, misunderstanding, thinks his parents want to send him away. Sam clarifies that it's a family tradition dating back to the 1700s, with a part of the school named after their family. Alan is torn, thinking of running away. Before he can act, there's a knock at the door. It's Sarah, returning Alan's bike. She doesn't realize she embarrassed him by doing so. Their conversation is interrupted by the sound of jungle drums. Relieved that he's not the only one hearing them, Alan suggests they play the game. Sarah hesitates, thinking they're too old for board games. But she accidentally rolls the dice, causing Alan's game piece to move on its own. The board produces a riddle, and they hear animal noises from the chimney. Realizing the game is more than they bargained for, Alan accidentally rolls the dice again. Another riddle appears. In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. Alan begins to get sucked into the board game, desperately shouting at Sarah to roll the dice. Sarah's screams awaken a swarm of bats from the chimney. Panicked, Sarah flees, leaving Alan trapped in Jumanji's jungle. Fast forward 26 years, the Shepherd siblings, Peter and Judy, move into the Parrish house with their Aunt Nora, who plans to turn it into a bed and breakfast. The children are still grieving the loss of their parents in a skiing accident the previous year. Peter struggles to express his feelings, while Judy concocts elaborate stories about their parents to cope. Almost every room in the house is open, except for one, Alan's old room, left untouched. Peter explores the attic and is startled to find African bats. However, an exterminator finds no trace of them. The kids hear rumors suggesting Alan's parents might have been involved in his disappearance. One night, Judy is awakened by the sound of drum beats. She tells Peter, and they both hear the rhythmic drumming coming from the attic. The next day, the drumming persists, but Aunt Nora hears nothing. Following the drum beats, Judy and Peter find the Jumanji board game. Peter grabs the pieces and suggests they play. Judy goes first and reads the riddle on the board. They need a strong box spray, but use a tennis racket instead. When Peter rolls doubles, wild monkeys wreak havoc in the kitchen. Realizing they should read the rules before continuing, they find, adventurers beware, do not begin unless you intend to finish. With the house already in chaos, Peter and Judy decide to complete the game. Peter rolls a 5, and the board presents another riddle. Is that you, Aslan? Suddenly, Alan emerges from the game after 26 years, freed by Peter's roll. Disoriented after spending most of his life in Jumanji, Alan finds himself back in his childhood home, where everything remains unchanged, including his old room and bike. Seeing these familiar items gives him hope that his parents might still be around. At first, he even mistakes Peter and Judy for his siblings. It takes Alan time to readjust. He encounters Carl, now a friendly police officer, who considers arresting Alan due to his odd appearance and behavior. Meanwhile, Carl's new police car is dismantled by mischievous monkeys, giving Alan a chance to slip away in search of his parents. Exploring the town, Alan discovers it has declined, with even the shoe factory closed down. A kind-hearted local gives him some clothes. Alan learns that Sam Parrish devoted all his resources to finding his lost son, neglecting the factory, and ultimately passing away young. Heartbroken, Alan realizes both his parents are gone. Judy informs Alan that her own parents also passed away. Determined to finish the game, the kids stick with Alan, while animals from Jumanji wreak havoc across town, including giant mosquitoes capable of piercing leather and glass. To evade these threats, Alan takes his first driving lesson in years. He also shaves his beard for the first time in ages. After a brief snack and some reverse psychology, Alan decides to supervise them playing Jumanji. He warns Peter that they've only glimpsed Jumanji's dangers. Judy rolls the dice, but it turns out to be Sarah's turn. Understandably, Alan is upset with Sarah for leaving him trapped for 26 years. Sarah struggles to accept that the game they played as kids was real. She copes by seeking medication from her doctor, hesitant to continue playing. Eventually, she agrees, and a new riddle appears. Just call a gardener. No big deal, right? Little do they know, this is no ordinary plant. Meanwhile, Carl discovers his new cruiser no longer has that fresh car smell, courtesy of the mischievous monkeys. Alan and Sarah share a poignant moment, realizing they both felt isolated for the past 26 years. It's Alan's turn again, and a new riddle appears. A hunter from the darkest wild makes you feel just like a child. This hunter, named Van Pelt, symbolizes Alan's father. Alan never fully confronted his father, which is why Jumanji conjured Van Pelt. But facing a man intent on lethal hunting would frighten anyone. Carl arrives just in time to witness his car sustain more damage. Van Pelt runs out of ammo, allowing Alan to sneak back into the house. While Alan and Sarah debate who had it worse over the past 26 years, Judy decides to roll the dice. A growing rumble fills the air, not a marching band, but a stampede. A pelican intervenes, prompting them to relocate the game. Meanwhile, Van Pelt decides to upgrade his arsenal. The pelican attempts to barter the board game for a fish, but reneges on the deal. Peter tries a risky move, cheating, and Jumanji punishes him by transforming him partially into a monkey. Alan apologizes to Carl for wrecking his shoe prototype 26 years ago. Realizing Alan survived all those years ago gives Carl pause. Amidst the chaos, animals rampage like oversized trucks. Van Pelt seizes the opportunity to snatch the Jumanji box, intending to use it as bait. He traps Sarah in a Home Alone-inspired contraption. Carl releases Alan, and they reconcile with a hug before racing to confront Van Pelt. Sarah and Judy fear for their safety, but Van Pelt clarifies he's only after Alan because Alan rolled the dice. Just then, Alan crashes Van Pelt's plans. Meanwhile, Nora returns home and starts driving for a rideshare app to earn extra cash, but gets a 1-star review. Peter, navigating the awkwardness of adolescence, finds support from Alan. As they enter the house, they realize they forgot to call the gardener. Across town, Carl explains his rough day to Aunt Nora, which seems to be worsening. It's Sarah's turn to roll, and the riddle reveals. Every month at Border Moon, there will be a monsoon. Rain pours inside the house, and someone shouts about climate change as more animals arrive, prompting heroic actions from Alan akin to Crocodile Dundee. Carl's day continues to go downhill. Sarah attempts to kiss Alan, but after 26 years, he's rusty. Alan's turn comes up, and the floor turns to quicksand. He rolls the dice while sinking, but Jumanji rejects it, solidifying the floor and trapping Alan and Sarah briefly. Peter's turn unleashes giant spiders. There's an axe in the shed, but Peter realizes he's not the sharpest tool, and Nora worries about insurance. Tensions escalate. Judy is hit by darts from a purple flower, making her drowsy. A lucky roll splits the house, freeing Alan and Sarah. Van Pelt returns after fingerpainting, demanding Alan drop what he's holding. Alan releases the dice, which roll slowly. Alan decides to face Van Pelt. Asked for final words, Alan says, Jumanji, ending the game and restoring everything. Lessons learned. Alan and Sarah return to 1969. For Alan's dad, only minutes have passed. Alan embraces him, clarifying it wasn't Carl's fault. They deem the game too perilous and discard it. Alan and Sarah's relationship blossoms. Jumping 25 years forward, life improves. Alan talks to his dad, Sarah expects, and Carl's shoe design revitalizes the factory. Alan hires Peter and Judy's parents, averting their fatal ski trip. Will Jumanji return,